Luke, good to see you. Today, we are talking about the top tricks used to scam older adults and how to spot them. Scams targeting older adults are on the rise. In 2021, 93,000 older victims were scammed out of $1.7 billion. A recent report from the BBB found romance scams are the riskiest for people 55 to 64. So, we're going to walk through some tips. And the first tip is watch out for phone fraud. It's not just about clicking on a bogus email.
Yeah, absolutely. And phone fraud is something that's obviously existed for quite a period of time, but it's kind of taking on new shapes here in recent, technological developments and everything else. And so, I always tell people if you're answering a phone call from a phone number that you don't recognize, just be very wary of what you're discussing, details that you're giving over the phone. But I think a new one and one that I've seen personally myself has been these text message
Right.
scams where they're alerting you that you've got a package available or a
Mhm.
deposit's been made to your account. Click here to see it, or you're overdue on a payment. Click here. And the link is just a phishing scam. And
Right.
so those are things you always want to be very aware of. If it seems fishy, there's nothing telling you that you need to click on that link to check it out. You should have access to your own accounts and everything else and online shopping. And so double check with the legitimate websites first to make
Mhm.
sure that it's not a legitimate text
Mhm.
scam.
Always good advice. Next tip, research before making any investment. Older adults are often targeted because they have greater financial resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's certainly a push in the scam world to target those who are a little bit maybe technologically not as sophisticated or familiar with different things. But I always tell people whether you're working with us or working with any other financial advisor or institution, just to make sure that you've got a reputable custodian that's holding your assets. So some of the names will jump off the page to you, right? It's the Charles Schwabs of the world, the Vanguard or Fidelity or some of these other major companies. Be very wary. You're never making checks payable directly to a financial advisor, in his name or her name. And also that you're not making checks payable just to, unregistered securities or different investment products that may seem unfamiliar to you. We've seen it happen, in our area and across the country where all you end up doing is you're buying some guy a helicopter
Mhm.
somewhere.
Mhm.
And so you want to be very, very aware of where those assets are heading. And like I said, whether you work with us or anybody, that reputable custodian that is having custody of the assets, a major name, is a good place to start.
Mhm. Now let's talk about those sweetheart swindles. Older adults who are widowed or divorced are often targeted.
Yeah, and we've talked in the past about how they can play on your emotions, right? And
Mhm.
and there's a reason that scams are so popular, and it's because people have become very, very good at them. And one of the easiest things to do is to play on people's emotions. And so, I think of Catfish, the TV show, which
Right.
obviously has a very, very popular, show and a very big audience where people, you want to make sure you're talking to a real person. They're gonna come in a lot of times and talk about how they need, money to help cover their rent and all these other things. And if you're never meeting this person face to face, or at the very least on a video call, you want to be very, very cautious about that. And frankly, try to have someone else have a conversation with the same person and see if they're getting the same story.
Mhm. And that leads us to the next point because this is really important. Reach out to someone you trust. One third of people who've been scammed are too ashamed to even tell anyone about it.
Yeah, it's like I said, the emotional play on it. I think some people get so far down the line in some of these
Yeah.
scams that they become, very, uh, you know, just self-conscious about how they've let themselves get to that point. And so
Mhm.
obviously the best thing to do is to try to head it off before anything starts. But even if you get tied into some sort of scam, the earlier you can get out, the better. And so if that's a family member or a close friend, or even an attorney or a financial advisor that you feel very comfortable with, because attorneys and financial advisors are keeping all of your information private anyway, just to run things by them and double check and make sure that who you're interacting with or the company that you're interacting with is legitimate.
Right. And last bit of information here, guard your personal information very carefully. This is always good advice.
Yeah, yeah. And so, with the current online world, chances are your social security number's out there somewhere, right? Your date of birth is out there somewhere. And so you always just want to make sure you're taking all the extra steps. If you're getting paper mail with sensitive information, having that shredded occasionally, periodically, and then always kind of double checking your online accounts if you're familiar logging in to look into your account balances, making sure there's no phantom expenses showing up on your bank statements or investment statements, and just kind of reading through those and making sure all the balances add up with what your real expenses are.
It's frustrating, but you have to be vigilant. These scammers are so good at what they do. Luke, it was really helpful to talk this through. If somebody does want to ask you more questions about this, or if they think they've been victimized by a scam, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, as always, they can reach us by phone at 937-498-1128, or by email. They can reach us online as well at iconberryretirement.com. I think the biggest thing with these, like I said, is just making sure that if something seems too good to be true, a lot of times it is too good to be true. So if you've
Mhm.
won some sort of offshore lottery, or you won a sweepstakes that you didn't even enter, chances are that's a scam, and it's something that you're going to want to make sure you're never wiring money or sending money to a place that you're unfamiliar with.
Right. Wanting it to be true doesn't make it true. Good advice.
Absolutely.
Luke, thank you very much.
Thanks, Aaron.